In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. What is happening in Niger is an excellent opportunity for us to understand what's happening to African Americans in the United States, going back to the beginning of slavery up to the present. Nothing that is happening in Niger would have occurred but for the placement of individual people who are citizens of that nation selling out to France and the United States and Italy and other Western nations. There would be no French troops in Niger. There would be no United States troops in Niger. There would be no Italian soldiers in Niger, but for sellouts, individuals who accept money and local political power to do the bidding of Western nations. Now, that same point holds true for Nigeria and for many other African nations. The conflict going on in Sudan, if you analyze it thoroughly, you will find is the result of Western influence. Of course, the ultimate goal in all of those instances is to sequester the wealth of Africa, to transfer it to Europe, where it can be processed and used to sustain the life quality of European people and the power of their governments. In other words, Africans sell out Africans, a minority, but they are backed by the money and the police power of the Western nations to control their people. Nigeria is an excellent example of this kind of corruption. Slavery, for example, would not have happened. The millions of African people, many of whom were from Niger and Nigeria and Mali, many of those Africans would have never been enslaved but for Africans selling them to Europeans for trinkets because of their ignorance and their greed and their lack of foresight. So we are here in the United States because Africans sold out Africans for the same reason that African people do not control their wealth, do not actually control their nations, do not even control their currencies, their gold. Do you know that their gold is stored in French banks and English banks? Do you know that all the gold of Libya was taken after the murder of Gaddafi under the Obama administration by his orders? So we are in the same predicament here in the United States. But for African Americans who sell out for trinkets other African Americans, we would not still be spinning our tires on legal issues, on legal remedies that should have long been applied so that we have a level playing field on which to compete in this nation. What is the mindset of such people? Well, they're selfish, obviously. They're narcissistic, obviously. They're greedy, obviously. And they disdain other African Americans. They hate themselves, and they hate anything that reminds them of themselves. That's the gist of the mindset of those African Americans who do what African leaders do to their people in Africa, except on a micro scale. You have a situation in Niger where the French have been taking their uranium, the French have been taking their diamonds, the French have been taking their gold, the French are going to take their oil to power their nation. And the people of Niger are second or third to the bottom of the poorest people on earth. Literally, only 20% of them have electricity compared to France. And they supply 80% of the electricity, of the power that provides electricity for the French people. And of course, the French people could give a flying duck's quack. They're not even aware of the plight of the people of Niger. And to be quite honest with you, and here's my last comparison that I'm going to make. The powers, the French, the Italians, by the way, you recall the Italians and what they did in Libya and what they did in Ethiopia. And the United States could care less about those African people, those poor African people who have literally have to live off of what is the equivalent of $5 a day and have a lifespan of about between 55 and 60 years of age. Billions upon billions of dollars of their wealth over decades have been sent out to France, and they don't even have a credible medical institution, credible schools. Nothing. A macrocosm of the general problem in Africa. And for us, at the micro level, we reflect those same conditions, with one added issue for us. Generally, our people have normalized ignorance. They have made ignorance normal. They have made ignorance a value in culture, which in fact has transformed African American communities into communities of anti-culture. So watch what is happening, and ultimately, as our brave, heroic brothers and sisters in Niger stand for their right to be self-determinant in their sovereign nation, without a military to speak of, watch what the United States and France do to them. And there have been coded messages already by Secretary of State Blinken as to what that's going to be. Bloodshed, murder, more murder. Kill them, black people. Take their stuff as we took their bodies centuries ago and grew wealth for white supremacists all over the world. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.